حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما مزيدا. أما بعد، أيها المؤمنون عباد الله، قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه العزيز: والمؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهى عن المنكر ويقيموا الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة ويطيعون الله ورسوله أولئك سيرحمهم الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us that the believers to the other believers are friends and protectors of one another. They are individuals that aid one another in commanding that which is good and forbidding that which is evil, establishing the 5 salawat, giving obligatory prayer, charity, and the highlighting point, they obey Allah and His Messenger. Those individuals that meet the characteristics that we just mentioned above, they are the individuals that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shower His mercy upon. So therefore, we like to reflect on the hadith, along with other hadith, trying to extract or reflect on our situation as it relates to the benefits of this hadith, and some ways that we go against the benefit of this hadith. And that is, al-mu'min lil-mu'min kal-bunyan yashiddu ba'dahu ba'da. That the Prophet ﷺ informs us that the believer to another believer is like a solid brick structure. It reinforces one another. We like to reflect on this because this hadith is a magnificent hadith and have tremendous benefits. And this is a hadith that we see that will strengthen our households, that will strengthen our communities, and will strengthen the society as a whole if we implement it and we command one another to do that which the hadith entails. So let's reflect on some other hadith as it relates to this hadith as the foundation. And that is, حق المسلم على مسلم ستة. That in order for us to build a strong foundation, a strong community, a strong household, that a believer towards another believer have to have rights. And there are many rights, but the foundation or the core of the brotherhood that allowed us to strengthen the brotherhood so much that we are strengthening a building, they are 6 rights. They are 6 rights. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِذَا لَقَيْتُهُمْ فَسَلَّمْ عَلَيْهِ. That when you meet a Muslim, you should give the salams to him. You should. Meaning it is highly recommended. But in strengthening a Muslim brotherhood, when you see someone that is a Muslim and someone that share the belief based on Kitab and Sunnah and understanding of the Salaf as-Salih, that we have to do things that will aid the love for one another. And implementing this hadith it shows you that Islam is a religion based on love and based on friendship, and that these rights that we have over one another is strengthened the foundation so much that it's impossible to break it down once you implement this. And the one that demonstrates this is the Prophet ﷺ, showing the believers, first of all, calling them upon Tawheed, having a right belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and teaching his companions in Mecca before they migrated to Medina, teaching them that the Muslim to another Muslim is like a solid brick structure. It reinforces one another. How does it reinforces one another? It first starts with the belief, and then it goes for the rights and the character or the morals or the etiquettes that we should just demonstrate between one another. So much that Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anh, he was an individual in Mecca that had abundance of wealth. And they wanted to migrate with the Prophet alayhi salatu salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned the characteristics of the Ansar, and mentioned the characteristics of the Muhajirin. And that is that the Ansars, they are individuals that used to live and reside in Medina, while the Muhajirin was in Mecca. And they had houses, and they adopted faith. And when the ones that migrated from Medina and Mecca, because they were being persecuted based on their religion, based on that which resided in their heart, the belief that they had in Allah, and that which they wanted to demonstrate or display to the people wanted to stop that. So the Ansars, they gave them a way out. They aided their brothers because they shared the same belief, trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Ansars, they knew that the Muhajirin was giving up everything. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, for example, gave up all of his wealth. That was a condition for him to leave Mecca, to abandon his wealth. This is one of the ways that he was able to get out. But the ones that took them in, they were waiting for them. And they gave their wealth and their belongings. They gave everything to aid the ones that was defending the religion of Islam. Even though they needed it themselves, but they gave it to their brothers that was in more need of it. And when they gave, they did not have any sense of, I want it back. They didn't give, but I think I need that. How can al-mu'min lil-mu'min kal-bunyan yashuddu ba'dahum ba'da? How can a believer be to another believer like a solid big structure? You give charity, but yet you want to take it back. How? If we're a believer, we don't have it like that. We give for the sake of Allah, to aid His religion. That's why one of the cores in building this solid brick structure, that is giving the salams. Haqqul Muslim ala Muslim sitta, that the right upon another Muslim are 6. There are many more, but the strong or the core of the brotherhood are 6. إِذَا لَقِيتُهُمْ فَسَلَّمْ عَلَيْهِ. If you meet them, then you give them the salams. You give them the salams. So if you want to build a strong brotherhood based on love, based on affection, based on the right belief, we have to give the salams. Especially living in this society, we'll go out our way to aid, or we'll go out our way to show concern to those people that are not Muslim. Where the Muslims How can you strengthen the brotherhood? And the Prophet ﷺ informs us the best Islam. And taqra salam ala man arafta wa ma lam ta'raf. That you give the salams to the ones you know and the ones you don't know. That's strengthening the brotherhood. That any Muslim, because the principle of Muslim is just until proven otherwise. If you see a Muslim, give the salams to the ones you don't know and the ones you don't know. This is from the strongest or the most virtuous forms of Iman or Islam. Also, the Prophet ﷺ informs us from the hadith that we are stemming from al-mu'min lil-mu'min kan-bunyan yashuddu ba'duhum ba'da, that the believer to another believer is like a solid brick structure. So therefore, if you want that structure to remain intact and you want to experience that brotherhood and that love and that affection, then why that we are in opposition to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ? إذا كنت ثلاثة فلا يتناجى اثنين دون الآخر. If you are three individuals, why are two individuals talking and leaving out the other one out of the conversation? How can you be a solid big structure? You have to give that person permission. Can I talk to this individual? Can I talk to him? So that person don't feel as though they are left out or that you are talking bad about them. Because it's about building a solid brick structure. Why? Because at the end of the hadith, you don't want your Muslim brother to become sad that he's left out, that he's felt that he's not important. Also, the Prophet ﷺ in another hadith that we can benefit, another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and Anas radiallahu ta'ala an, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم والذي نفسه بيده لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لجاره أو أخيه ما يحب لنفسه. If you want to build a strong foundation of brotherhood, then how can you build a strong foundation when you don't love for yourself what you love for your brother? You don't love. If you don't want people to cheat you, why do you cheat your brothers? If you don't want your brothers to lie to you, why do you lie to them? إياكم والكذب. Be aware of lying. فإن الكذب يهدي إلى الفجور وإن الفجور يهدي إلى النار. Because lying, it leads to wickedness, and wickedness leads to the hellfire. وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالصِّدْقِ. And be aware, and is upon you to be truthful. So I'm building in a strong foundation that you should love for your brother or your neighbor what you love for yourself. From good. Do not oppress them. Do not deceive them. Do not cheat them. Do not look at them like they are strange. But whatever good that you want from the same for that individual. The other hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he says, لا يحل للمسلم أن يهاجر أخاهم فوق ثلاثة. That is not permissible for you to abandon your Muslim brother for more than 3 days. If there's anything related to the dunya, then no problem. You have 3 days to earn it out. After that, it's not permissible for you to abandon your brother. It's not permissible for you to abandon your brother. Al-mu'min lil-mu'min kan-bunyan yashuddu ba'duhum ba'da. That the believer to another believer is like a solid brick structure. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, he left Mecca and went to Medina. And he left behind all of his wealth. When he got to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ paired him off with an individual that was wealthy, an individual that had wives. And that individual from amongst the Ansar, he loved for himself what he loved for his brothers. Not only that, they only divided on things that goes against Kitab and Sunnah. If it didn't go against Kitab and Sunnah, they loved one another. What is the demonstration of that? The one that was met up with Abdurrahman, he said what? I have wealth and you can have my wealth. And I have 2 wives. Whatever one you want, I'll divorce and give. He didn't say, I want this one and you can have that one. That's a brotherhood. That's something that we need to reflect on. So why is it, if we're trying to build this solid brick foundation based on brotherhood, why is we abandon one another more than 3 days and is not an innovator? If he's an innovator, you need to abandon him. Because indirectly he's lying on Allah and his messenger. He's saying Allah and his messenger that Allah did not complete the religion. And that the Prophet ﷺ did not do what he was commanded to do, and that is to convey the message. If he's not an innovator, then why are you having these grudges more than 3 days? وَخَيْرُهُمَ الَّذِي يَبْدَأُ بِالسَّلَامِ. And the Prophet ended the hadith saying, and the best amongst them, after they have this 3 days, that they try to get it together, the best amongst them is the one that initiate the salams. أَيْنَ نَحْنُ مِنْ هَؤُلَاءِ. Where are we from this? Where are we from the righteous? Also the Prophet ﷺ, he informs us in another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and strengthening a Muslim brotherhood, من نفس, and whoever remove a hardship from a believer في الدنيا, نفس الله عنهم قربا من قرب يوم القيامة. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove a worry and a hardship away from him on the day of judgment. A believer that is worrying about different things, if we want to build that solid foundation from the hadith, al-mu'min lil-mu'min kal-bunyan, that the believer to another believer is like a solid brick structure, then your believers, the other believers, you should know. You should know when they are happy, when they are sad. And when they are sad, you should take advantage of that opportunity to aid them. And if they are worried about something, relieve it for them. And when you do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove that great worry from you on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And whoever, a Muslim that is trustworthy, but unfortunately his ends is not meeting, or if he having financial difficulty, you know this, and Allah put you in a position to aid, then you should aid him. Pay his debt. And when you do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove a hardship from you in this world and the hereafter. And in building that solid foundation, it is also وَمَنْ سَتَرَ Muslim, from the same hadith. And whoever guard a Muslim, if he have a mistake and he's not publicizing that mistake, you should advise him and keep it to yourself. The Prophet says, al-mu'min lil-mu'min kal-bunyan yashuddu ba'dahu ba'da. A believer to another believer is like a solid brick structure. How is going to be a solid brick structure? You're informing everybody about the sin that he's committing, and he's doing it in his house. You're not advising him, but yet you are speaking bad about him. That people don't even know about that sin. The Prophet ﷺ informs us, if you guard or hide the sin of a Muslim, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hide yours on Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is how you build a solid brotherhood, a solid community, a solid household. These are the things that we need to reflect on. The Prophet ﷺ informs us about things that will break down the brotherhood. They asked about ghibah, backbiting. And the companions respond, Allah wa Rasulah a'lam. The Prophet ﷺ says, ذِكْرَ أَخَاكَ بِمَا يَكْرَى. To mention about your brother something that is displeasing to him, behind his back. These are the things that break down the brotherhood, destroy the brotherhood. If you have a problem, advise him. Also the Prophet ﷺ informs us, لا يدخل جنة قات لا يدخل جنة من لا يدخل الجنة. The Prophet ﷺ, the one that will not enter paradise, is the one that is an imam, that spread tales. The one that tries to break up a husband and a wife is not like the one that is spreading slander. The one that tries to break up a husband and a wife, that's them. But the one that slanders, he's destroying the community. Everybody. The one that loves the slander, he's the one that destroys the community. The Prophet ﷺ, the meaning more or less, informs us he will not enter paradise. Don't forget the hadith. Al-mu'min lil-mu'min kan bunyan yashiddu ba'dahum ba'dah. That the believer to another believer is like a solid brick structure. It reinforces one another. If we believe that, then why is it some amongst us are in opposition to this hadith of the Prophet? وَمَنْ تَسَمَّى حَدِيثٍ قَوْمٍ وَهُمْ كَارِهٌ لَهُ. And whoever listens and eavesdrops on a Muslim conversation and he is displeased with you listening, he don't want you to listen on, but you eavesdrop, sabbah, they're going to be poured in his ear hot brass on Yawm al-Qiyamah. وَالْجَزَاءَ مِنْ جِنْسِ الْعَمَلِ. And because of the bad that you did and displayed, Allah is going to replace it back with you. He's going to give it back to you on Yawm al-Qiyamah. You're eavesdropping on the brothers or on the sisters, and they don't want you to listen to that conversation. That's not building a brotherhood. That's destroying it. أيها المؤمنون عباد الله. The Prophet ﷺ had the best character, and he displayed it, and he walked it. He called the people to it. He called the people to it. He displayed it in his actions, and he called to that. The Prophet ﷺ also made dua for us to make. Allahumma jannabni min munkarat akhlaq. Keep me distant and detached and far from wicked character, wa a'mal, and actions. And also passions, and also diseases. The Prophet ﷺ, he used to make supplication, and he taught his community to make that. These are things that we need to reflect on. How can we build a solid brick structure if we don't have no concern about one another? How can we build a solid brick structure that reinforces one another? That we have the hadith, Haqqu Muslim ala Muslim sitta, that the right of another Muslim are six from the basic, the core of brotherhood. And we have people that we love. We have friends, and he have not invited you over his house. You have someone you know, but what? You don't even invite him. Or your door is not never open for guests. Have we not heard the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the mean or less? That a man went outside of his town to visit his brother. And the angel stopped him on the path. Why are you going to visit him? Is it something that you want to get? He said, no. I love him for Allah's sake. How many amongst us go to a different town or a different city to visit our brother that we love for the sake of Allah? Because he's trying to die upon the belief that is pleasing to Allah. The belief that Allah praised the companions. لَقَدْ رَضِيَ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَقَدْ رَضِيَ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That Allah is pleased with the believers. Going outside of his location to visit someone for the sake of Allah. Companions cutting off of the light to do what? To act like that they're eating. It's not enough food, but they want to make sure their guests eat. And look at our gatherings. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ اللَّهِ. Look at our gatherings. When we invite people to our house, we allow the person that is the guest, help yourself. هل أتاك الحديث عن ضيف إبراهيم المكرمين? Have you not heard the story of Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam when the angels came to visit him? It's not 115 in the shade outside. And then that person come to your house, you say, would you like a glass of water? Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam sacrificed it. Some of the people of knowledge said, so that means your house should always be ready for guests. You have a room always reserved for guests. Look in our gatherings when we invite people. You have the food and everybody get in a line. What is this? If they're not sick, then yes, they can have a special plate. But if they're not sick, sit down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. How many big plates is going to take for a group of people to eat together? A group. How are we going to build a solid foundation? We don't have that love for one another. Return back to the ways of the Prophet ﷺ. Me, you, and everyone else. Because this is our salvation. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ba'd. Ayyuha mu'minu ibadallah. The Prophet ﷺ says, Al-mu'min al-mu'min kan bunyan yashaddu ba'dahu ba'dah. That the believer to another believer is like a solid brick structure. How do I reinforce one another? Is by having a correct belief. The belief that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By having a good character. By being good to your neighbors, Muslim or non-Muslim. By being good to your relatives. By maintaining a relationship with your relatives. by the ones in a community that are poor, and Allah have blessed you, وَأَن تَصَدَّقْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, that you give to the ones that are in need, because it's better for you. That you aid them financially. Also, that you aid them as it relates to the deen. Teach them an ayah from the book of Allah. Teach them the book of Allah that remove all illness from the heart. What is a better purification than that? What is a better cure for the sickness than that? Teach them the ayats as it relates to staying away from being stingy, from lying, from deceiving, from wasting your time, from wasting your money, from not living up to your responsibility. All of these things we need in building a community. But guess what? It's the believers that aid one another in doing it. If we don't aid one another in doing it, how's it going to happen? It first starts from your houses and then your community. If this your local masjid, it should have plenty of classes from teaching the book of Allah, from teaching the correct aqidah, and other things from the Islamic science. We should encourage one another to visit one another, to go visit the sick, to interact with the children, and to advise the children. To advise one another in good, to compete with one another in good. All of these make a solid foundation. But if we are neglectful of these things and unconcerned, oh, it's okay to do that, it shouldn't be. Especially in this community, when you have a diversity of individuals from all types of places, and you have a lot of things fighting against you, there's no way in the world that this should not be the best masjid that is educating the people, that we're not from ISIS, that we don't blow up bombs, that we don't rob our bosses, that we don't kidnap people, that we call to two things, kitab and sunnah, and that we advise one another to adhere to it. How can he be your friend if he doesn't advise you? How can he be a friend when he makes interpretations that is not? He's cheating on the exam. How can you wake him up? Oh, this is not cheating. This is a special type of cheating. Oh, Allah says, وَتَعَاوَنَ عَلَى إِذْنِ وَأُذْوَانِ. They'll stop you right there in your tracks. وَلَا تَعَاوَنَ عَلَى إِذْنِ وَأُذْوَانِ. Because they know the ayat do not aid one another. Okay, then why are you aiding one another? The Muslims are cheating one another. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ اللَّهِ. أَيُّهَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ عِبَادَ اللَّهِ. Fear Allah. Go back to our religion. Aid one another. Because we have a tremendous day to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for good and to protect us from harm and aid us in building a strong Muslim household and a strong Muslim community, and to overlook our sins and to increase us in knowledge and to preserve our health and allowed us to see your face. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.